Welcome to Breaking the Silence Behind the Scenes. Many of you know that we've been doing many film episodic series cinematically about people's stories. People's stories that have these experiences. I mean, come on. We all know by now, it's been a year. It's been a year to this month that we've been doing Breaking the Silence. And so I've shifted from worrying about algorithms and worrying about YouTube beating on me that you got to keep people's attention span and all that stuff, and just dropped it all. I am focused, and so is Mary, on just bringing to the screen good quality shows with high production value. So currently we're doing Judy Goldschmidt. Her story is amazing. This is a UFO close encounters witness that actually has some verifiable proof in an x-ray about what has happened to her. And she experienced many different kinds of forms of beings within her experience. So this is a really long one. It's about 40 minutes. It might even be longer. And the level of effects and recreations that I'm having to do for this complex story is causing each episode we make to take longer to produce. And this is why we've only been giving you a piece of film every 2 weeks. But for shows like this, it's going to take longer. This may take me a month to do. I'm in post-production right now. Of course, we shot Judy, and I've been having to edit the footage, color correct it, and for each thing that she describes, like for instance, she saw praying mantises. I don't have any praying mantises, and I'm not going to get something off the internet and just throw it up there. That looks close enough. That's something for Netflix and the rest of Hollywood to do, because they don't care that much. I care. So working with Judy, she describes it to me, and I go into Blender, the 3D program that I use, and I hand make, not with AI, but hand make a wire mesh that I sculpt and shape, and then texture and paint, and then add an armature to so it can be animated and bring it to life. And I'm doing that for tall whites. I'm doing it for a hybrid baby. I'm doing it for grays. I'm doing it for a whole bunch of different stuff. And then there's all the backgrounds, the waterfall scene, where she sees this waterfall in Hawaii. And I have to make the terrain, the waterfall, the night sky, the trees, all of it. She describes interiors of the craft. I show all of that. Those interiors all have to be created, and I do it all in Blender, and I make 3D objects, and I surface them and texture paint them, and on and on and on. There's an owl that she describes flying alongside of her car. I had to create the owl. Then I had to get another owl that I did purchase, and now I'm altering it to look like the owl she saw, because the owl, as it turned out, is in flight. But I built a whole owl that I thought would just be used for sitting and staring, and then later I found out that it's actually flying alongside the car. So, I've got a good owl, and I'm changing the textures on it because what she saw was all white. So it's really elaborate, and it's really involved. And then after that, I've got another one. Some of you may have heard of it. It's called the Jackrabbit case. And that case involves a witness who was driving along the road in the desert back in the 70s with her best friend, and they were stopped in the road by 3.5 to 4 foot tall jackrabbits, which turned out not to be jackrabbits. That one's going to be another really involved piece, and it's going to be probably close to an hour long. So you can expect that from us from now on, you're going to get much longer shows, more in depth, and visually stunning. Now, it's just me and Mary doing everything. Thank you, Earl Gray Anderson, our dear friend, for helping us with sound and all the other things like promoting the show and hooking us up with people to come in front of camera. Because a lot of these people are coming in front of camera are because of Earl's connection. And we greatly appreciate it. So that's what you can expect. That's what's coming. And, you know, we're very, very overworked, but we want to stay true to our mission. We have for a year. We will not debunk you. We will not have skeptics. We will not interview you during these shoots and steer your narrative. You go in front of camera, you tell your story, and we exactly make that story. Unlike Netflix with the Manhattan alien abduction case, that's what they told Carol they would do. And that show was just appalling. They lied to her, and they just did what they wanted to do with that story. And you will never, ever see that happen with us. Moving on, I'm going to talk to you a little bit about what's been going on. I've done some other shows. I'm getting asked lots of questions. And I'm experiencing a lot of activity. And it's subtle. And some of it's not so subtle. For instance, we just had a support group meeting this last Sunday. And there were a number of people there. And towards the end of the evening, most of them left. And it was just my one friend, Mary, and myself. I'm sitting talking to them, and I'm watching them have a conversation. And I noticed this blue-white light thing moving across the living room. And I thought, you know, maybe I'm seeing things. Maybe it's some kind of lens flare from one of the lights over there. They weren't very bright. I just discounted it. So a few minutes went by, and both my friend and Mary reacted to something. Did you see that? Yeah, I saw that. I said, what did you guys see? We saw a blue orb go into the couch. Yeah. So that happened in our house. I've also had a number of interesting dreams, but one of them wasn't a dream. I was in the bathroom. I said, I don't think it was a dream. And the bathroom was lit up like broad daylight, which was odd because it was in the middle of the night. And I don't know if the door was closing or if I was trying to close the door, but I had my hand on the door and I was pushing at it, and something, I was on the other side pushing back really hard, so hard it was overpowering me. So I stood back. I'm starting to get a little frightened at this point, and this blue beam that I'm so familiar with came through the door and hit me. And I felt that feeling immediately of being frozen or just unable to move. And for the first time, instead of yelling out like I've had in the past, and it turned out I was doing this in my sleep and I woke up Mary, I thought to myself, I'm not going to wake Mary up. I'm not going to panic. I'm not going to be afraid. And I wasn't. And just like all of a sudden, it just, all the fear in me just ran out of me. And I stood there and just let it happen. The blue light, I can feel it almost like it's warm on my face as I describe it. And I don't know what happened after that. I know I went back to bed, and I didn't forget it. I remembered it clearly the next morning. So that happened that same week. And then this morning, this one's a really good one. Alarm goes off. Mary and I say good morning and stuff, and then we just kind of put our heads back down, and I close my eyes. And I don't know if you're familiar with the effect, but if you've been staring at something and you close your eyes suddenly, you see a negative image of it, and then it slowly fades. And in my case, when I closed my eyes again, in the doorway, I saw a gray, in negative, standing there staring at us. I opened my eyes up again, and I thought, there's nothing there. And I closed them again, and there it was again. And it slowly faded. And then I saw all these patterns and geometric shapes and stuff. And I opened my eyes up and said, what the heck was that? So there are things going on. And they continue to go on. Today, Mary and I watched the hearings, as I'm sure many of you did. And I was really reluctant to watch it because it just seems like the same old thing over and over again without making any real progress. Mr. Gold, our NASA rep, was so sanctimonious. You know, he was talking to Congress and the Senate like they were children, saying and making insipid jokes. It was so obviously that he was lying, that he's covering up. And we've seen it before. But it was insulting. And this is why. I thought the whistleblowers did an excellent job. They handled Congress and the senators very well. But I'm also going to give credit to the Congress and to the senators. The senators and the congressmen asked the most intelligent, well-informed questions I have ever seen them ask. This was clear that they had been researching and studying this phenomenon a great deal since the last time they spoke about it in a hearing. They know they're being lied to by the executive branch and whoever's above them. They know that there's something to this. They know it's not the Chinese or the Russians with advanced technology. They know this is something entirely different, and they're taking the whistleblowers very seriously. And in closing, I have to say, that is real progress. One senator really got me because she said, if this subject matter didn't have real substance to it, why would they be spending so much money and effort to put it down, to say it's not happening, to cover it up? When Mr. Gold said that NASA was the paradigm of transparency, I fell off my chair. I laughed so hard. And another thing, Lou stating that at the risk of going to jail and serving time, he would keep his sources protected and he would maintain that he is telling the truth because he's swearing under oath. What he's telling, if it's a lie and he gets found out, he's going away for it. So are all of them. So they're really putting their lives on the line to do this. And I don't think book sales or TV appearances you might get paid for are worth that. I'm sure it's not to them. It certainly wouldn't be to me. So you really need to think about this before you pass judgment on what's going on here. Really think about it hard. I know you, who I'm talking to right now, are going to agree with me. But maybe by chance, there are some people who are on the fence who are watching this right now and have a lot of questions about this stuff. I always will say the same thing to you. If you think there's nothing to the UFO phenomenon and the visitor phenomenon, research it yourself. Take the time. Go on the internet. Look at the documents. Listen to the eyewitnesses, the testimony that go back in the thousands to the 50s and more. And then come back and tell me there's not something to this. So I was glad I watched it. I was glad I saw that because these people are really starting to think. And it's only my hope that the public will pay attention to the hearings. I could tell by looking at the numbers of people on YouTube watching them, they were very, very low. And when I talked about it on my Facebook page, people didn't know what I was talking about. And when they saw it was something about UFOs, then they started to chuckle. They chuckled because they didn't watch the hearings, or they know that there was really something serious about this whole subject. And it's my hope that this will spread, because you've got senators and congressmen, you've got people who worked on the inside for our government, for the military, coming forward and saying, yes, there were crash saucers. Yes, there were biological bodies collected. Yes, they're back engineering the technology. And yes, we're not alone. These are non-humans. Thank you guys, all of you, for doing that. I'm asked all the time, why is this happening? What's the purpose behind the experience between the visitors and us? And I think it's simple. I think we've lost touch with who we are. I think that we've separated from nature, and we have. I mean, just look what's going on. How many people go out and look at the stars every night? How many people connect with the little spider they see crawling up the wall? How many people feel the breath of the planet and the trees moving? and realize that we're all connected. In knowing that you are connected and feeling this connection, it opens up amazing possibilities. And so much of it could really help heal this planet and the people on it. Sure, people are starving, people are in war, and it's really hard for them to take things like this into their minds and think about it when you're just trying to survive. But the reason that they're just trying to survive in the first place and have the wars and the droughts and the miseries and everything else is because we did separate. We did remove our consciousness from the collective. And that doesn't mean that you don't have individuality and choice. You do. But if we work together, it would be a greater world. I mean, I watch my dog sitting out in the courtyard every day in the morning. She goes out the doggy door and she sits in the courtyard in the back. And what does she do? She looks up. She watches the birds. She looks at the trees. She looks at the insects flying by. She takes it all in because she knows she's connected and she knows she's part of all that. And that's her reality, and it's important to her. How many of us do what she does every day? I do it. I go out and look at the stars every night. I take walks with my dog and I notice the sunlight going through the trees. I notice the squirrels playing, the birds flying, the crows talking to each other. I listen to the owls at night hooting in conversation. How wonderful, how amazing, and how incredibly cut off human beings are from that awareness and that connection. And the next step, of course, is realizing we're spirit. We're not just physical. We're not just our brain. We're much, much more than that. And we're always connected to the people we loved, the ones that have gone to the afterlife, because the afterlife is right here. It's a frequency shift, a state of mind that the visitors exist in all the time, which is why a lot of people, when they're dying, see them. We're really lost. We really need to reconnect. We have a lot of work to do. Let's get started.